The following presentation is brought to you from the supporters of the Church of the Sovereign God.
So please go with me to the book of Psalm 88. Psalm 88, and we will begin reading in verse 1. You can read all the way from verse 1 all the way down, but I want to begin in, Psalm 88, and we're going to begin in verse 9. Now you can begin in 1, but we're going to begin in verse 9 and read the next few verses. Verse 9, it says, "Mine eye mourns by reason of affliction, Lord. I have called daily upon you. I have stretched out my hands unto you." Verse 10, "Will you show wonders to the dead?" In other words, somebody's dead. Are you going to show them wonders? This is a question he asked. "Shall the dead arise and praise you?" Think about it. Selah. Verse 11, "Shall your loving kindness be declared in the grave? Or your faithfulness in destruction? Shall your wonders be known in the dark?" We know that it says the dead know not anything. And so, and David understood these. These are thought-provoking questions. And he ends this particular section in verse 12 there, and he says, "And your righteousness in the land of forgetfulness?" From David's thoughts and the questions, I think that we can begin to ask ourselves other questions that might help us in our self-examination. So I'd like for us to look at some of David's questions and thoughts from these verses here in Psalm 88 with these in mind, and consider some of these verses and put them into our own questions and use them for self-examination. Remember our first opening's questions were, if you were dead, what would stop? And if you don't die and you continue, what's going to continue? Now if you think about those along the lines of self-examination, and then you think about these verses, and we're going to put them in forms of questions and points, then I think that you can see right off where we're going to go. The first question that I want us to consider here is, do we call daily upon God? Remember, we're using this for self-examination. We're alive, thank God. We're not in the grave, where there are no thoughts, where everything has ceased. We know there is the resurrection. I'm not dealing with that part at all. This is not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the fact that we're not dead, we're not in the grave, we're alive, and what is going to continue because we are alive. And the first thing that I want us to ask with these verses of David in mind here is, as David says, "I call upon you daily." Do we? Do we call upon God daily? Verse 9 says, "Mine eye mourns by reason of affliction, Lord. I have called daily upon you. I have stretched out my hands unto you." Can we, honest before God and honest before ourselves, answer, yes, that's what we do? Remember, hard look at ourselves, examining ourselves for the Passover. And please understand from the very beginning, as we go through and we ask these questions, if we answer yes, that's awesome. If we say, well, no, then we can change. How can we change this? Because we're alive. Because we're above ground. We're not in the ground where we can't do any of these things. Let's go with me now to Psalm 100, verse 1. Psalm 100 and verse 1, it says, "Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all you lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing." So I have a thought on this and a question in regards to this. Do we do this? Do we call upon God daily? Do we sing to God? That's an awesome thought to think about. Can the dead sing to God? No. Can the living sing to God? Absolutely. Are we a witness to God's wonders? That's verse 10. "Will you show wonders to the dead?" The implication is from David, if you continue my life, I'm going to continue to show your wonders. I'm going to continue to show and talk about your great wonders. My question is, are we a witness of the great wonders of God? Let's go to Psalm chapter 9 and verse 1. Psalm 9 and verse 1. I will bless you, O Lord, with my whole heart. The dead can't do that. Only the living can do that. I will show forth all your marvelous works. Same word as wonders. Verse 11, drop down to verse 11, it says, sing praises to the Lord, which dwells in Zion. Zion, I've told you many times before, one of the significant meanings of this word, uses of this word, is the church. Verse 11, sing praises to the Lord, which dwells in Zion. Declare among the people his doings, or his wonders. So we're instructed we are to declare. We are to speak up. We are to be witnesses to the wonders of God. Psalm 77. Psalm 77, verse 11, I will remember the works of the Lord. Surely I will remember your works of old. And the days of unleavened bread are one of those times that we spend significant amount of time on the wonders of old. The things that he has accomplished in times past. He brought Israel out of Egypt. There are lessons that we learn from that. We focus on that. But make it personal. Do you individually, do you focus on that? You know, we're alive. We can. Do we? See, that's the point. Do we do these things? Verse 12. I will meditate also on all your work and talk of your doings. Okay, remembering these things and reading about these wonders of God from old is one thing, but talking about them is something else. Do we do that? You see, in the grave, this can't be done. That's what he tells us over here in this verse. That's what he tells us back in Psalm 88 in verse 10. Will you show wonders to the dead? And the answer is no, they're dead. But to the living he does. And then to the living, what we also see from here in Psalm 77 is that I will meditate on your work and I will talk of your doings. Your way, O Lord, is in the sanctuary. Who is so great a God as our God? Is there any other God that's greater than our God? There is no other God but our God. Verse 14, you are the God that does wonders. You have declared your strength among the people. It's through these things, it's through understanding the awesomeness of God, the works that he has done, the work he is doing, the work he is yet going to do, the wonders that he has accomplished, the wonders that he is accomplishing today, and the wonders that we can read about prophetically that he's yet going to do. We can focus on those things, and as a result of that, we see more and more and more of the strength of this great God that we worship. Do we think about this in this way as we examine ourselves? Verse 15, you have with your arm redeemed your people, the sons of Jacob and Joseph. How much time, how often do we focus on that? Of this incredible wonder of God that he has declared his arm to be around these people, the people of God, of whom we are part. The third question that I want us to consider, going back to Psalm 88, this third question here is do we rise up and praise God? Verse 10, that's what it says. Shall the dead arise and praise you? And the answer is no, because he's not speaking about there is going to be the resurrection of the dead. Yes, that is going to happen, but in the context of Psalm 88, that's not what David is focusing on. What he is saying is there's a difference between those who are alive and those who are dead. That's what he's focusing. That's the comparison here. He is not addressing that there's not going to be a resurrection. That's not his subject here in Psalm 88. And so the question we ask is, do we rise up and do we praise God because we have this opportunity to do so? Let them praise your great and wonderful name because it is holy.